friends and neighbors. Welcome in the light, where laughter's the answer and hearts are shining bright. With calloused hands and wits, so raise your sharp. Let's praise a place where love ignites the spark.
Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to Sunnyside. It is another Monday. In another month. We're into February. February 2026. It's 222026. Sounds like a phone number, maybe? Well, whatever. It's been a week since I talked to you last. I hope you had a good week in between. I did go down to the capital of the state of Iowa, Des Moines, and went down there and kind of lobbied for our school district and other school districts in the state of Iowa. A lot of school districts were represented down there on the Day on the Hill. Been doing that for a few years now, and I'm going to talk about that in a little more detail here in a little bit. But overall, I feel my impression of what happened on Monday was kind of the same old, same old. Yeah, to be honest with you, it's there's a lot of education bills that are introduced by our legislature. I don't know why they're so boned up about education bills in the state of Iowa, but they sure do have a lot of opinions about how education should be conducted. And if they really wanted to they could just go ahead and run for the local school board. But they don't get paid for that. Maybe that's the problem. It's not a big enough platform for them. I'm not sure. But man, they love to control education in the state of Iowa. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Victory in other areas of the sunny side of life, though, this past week. I did have to, been remodeling the basement for a house that we have where our son lives and a couple of his roommates as they go to college. And so I was busy. I've been busy with it for a while, between that and hen holla. And I took a pause on hen holla because the hens are fine. It's cold and they're happy in the barn here. So they haven't moved out to their little hen holla under renovation or new build. But I did have to do some stairs to redo the staircase into this basement. And I don't know if you've ever had to do stringers. Those are that's the boards that hold the treads up, which you step on. So it's the things underneath the treads that hold everything up. And those are, look, if you don't do them all the time, it's complicated. And it took me about 3 hours to do 3. And it took me about 2.5 to get one right. And then the other 2 were pretty easy because you just trace them at that point. But man, I was, frustrated. And if you've never cut a stringer for a staircase, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you ever have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I even asked my favorite lumberyard to say, hey, do you guys cut stringers? And they were like, no. So it's not a favorite task for anybody to do. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that can go wrong if the measurements just aren't perfect. And there's a lot of things to consider. I even went to ChatGPT. I'm not going to lie. Went to ChatGPT and I put in my information, all of the details, including tread height and depth and all of these. Just lots of measurements. And they're like, it didn't help at all. It sort of did, but it only confirmed my math that I had gone into ChatGPT with. So I already knew what my cuts were. I was hoping that it would show me how to line it up on the 2x12. It did not, and so anyway. But I got it, and it was victory. And then I put it in, I installed it, and redid that whole. It was like an old rickety staircase, and there were very narrow treads. It's kind of goofy how you have to even get down there because these old houses. It's not like the basement was a planned living space, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to finish this basement off, and we're adding a bathroom and a little side room that's already. That would just making it look nice someday for resale, but currently just for the the tenants, including our son Jack that lives there, and so that's what we've been working on. And the staircase, that was the challenge of the week: framing walls, moving things, getting the electric in the right spot, making sure the plumbing is where it needs to be. All that stuff's not too hard. But for some reason, cutting stringers, what a challenge. And I did it. So victory over here. I'm happy. I didn't even know how I could share my enthusiasm for what I had accomplished with my family, they were not as impressed as I thought they would be, to be honest with you. They were less impressed with my stringer cutting and installation of the new staircase than they were with the Johnny Cash show. And I feel like the stringer cutting was way harder, to be honest with you. So there you go. I'm always honest with you, though. I'm not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. But speaking of some other new things, I might as well get to this first. I do have a communist slave servant that we've now employed to do our cleaning here around the studio part of the barn anyway. We recently acquired a Chi-Com robot. It's called a narwhal. So it's one of those, robot sweeper things that you're probably familiar with. They've been around for quite a while. And the brand is Narwhal, but it's riddled with Chinese letters. So pretty sure that it's mapping my house so that Xi Jinping can figure out what I'm up to. And that's probably watching me with his weird little eyes. But it is pretty cool, I will say that. And it is kind of cute. And it also does mopping, which is impressive, and that's why we got it. So it cleans the floors, tested it out, and just this weekend, and got it all set up. And I have to say, that little Chi-Com robot is pretty impressive. We do have a pretty significant drop-off because in our barn, we've got a little recreation area, so it's kind of like a mezzanine, and that's where we're having it do all of its cleaning, is on the mezz, as we call it, because we're cool like that. Just want to be able to stay in touch, And this little Chi-Com robot almost went over the edge several times until we got that thing mapped out correctly. During the mapping process, I had to rescue the Chinese slave robot many times because it wants to go right over that edge. We have it. I mean, there is a banister, and then it has like the wire cable things that keep people from falling off. But a little 4-inch round little robot just wants to keep on keeping on. And that throws off its mapping a little bit because it's just shooting out into space at that point with however it does its mapping. So took a little adjusting, but we got it figured out. And then, so now my door will be open in the studio here. I'll be working on other things when I'm not recording because then the door's closed. But yeah, just this little robot dude will like check in. It reminds me of like the people that I used to work with in the National Guard armories that didn't have anything to do. And they would like pop in my recruiter's office and they'd lean against the door. Like, what's up? What are you doing? Hear about Larry or whatever it happens to be. And I feel like this Chi-Com slave robot is now like popping in my door, just looking, because it's not on his map or her map or its map. I really don't know what its robot gender is, but I guess I can assign it one. That's the popular thing to do. And I think, you know what, whatever, this little narwhal, pretty good. I would recommend, now we'll find out later if in the Chinese invasion, if that happens, like if they know the studio layout, it's because of the narwhal. And as I suspect, most Chinese products are feeding information back to the Chinese Communist Party. So this one is probably doing that, but it's not much different than in, like maybe the folks that are in the Chinese restaurants all over the place. They're probably going back every summer to July, to report back to the Chi-Coms, what's going on in your little town. I have that suspicion as well. Doesn't make me paranoid, just makes me observant. And so we've got one of those, and it's fun. It's fun. It works. I have to say, it does a good job. That little Chinese communist robot, it really knows how to clean. I keep assigning it as a guy, but it could be just an it. Probably just an it. It's probably the actual proper pronoun for the narwhal. Anyway, I just want to let you know that I'm probably being watched by Chinese Communist Party because of that robot. All right, so I'm going to do a quick little review of, since I did talk to you about the situation on Monday, last Monday, when I went down to Des Moines. I first of all, I forgot what time I was supposed to be down there, which did not make me late. It actually made me excessively early. Turns out that didn't have to be there till like 10, and I left about 6 o'clock in the morning thinking I had to be there about 8:30, and did not have to be there at 8:30. So I had a nice breakfast at Perkins, which is what you do when you're old and you want to have breakfast. You go to Perkins. My only comment about Perkins is, I mean, they have good food and nobody smokes in them anymore, so it's kind of lost some of its ambiance. You know, I like the smell of cigarettes and pancakes in the morning with a little napalm. But I think the problem is that they do serve pancakes with everything. You have to really read that menu, the breakfast menu at Perkins, to find something that does not involve pancakes. I'm just not a pancake guy. Sorry if that disappoints you and you've been listening to Sunnyside of Life for the last 4 years and you didn't know that about me. How I keep my slim, fit, magnificent figure is I avoid pancakes. That's not true. I mean, I don't have that figure, but it probably helps a little bit that I don't eat pancakes on a regular basis. I'm not a lumberjack. I don't have that requirement where I have to have flapjacks in the morning with my eggs and bacon. I'll take the eggs and the bacon, maybe a bagel. Do you think I say bagel weird? My wife does. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I say it like a B-E-G-E-L, bagel, instead of a bagel. Anyway, I'll do that, or toast, or whatever it happens to be. Some fruit, maybe a little, dairy product of some sort, but not the pancakes. And I love syrup. I wouldn't just have syrup on its own. That would be weird. But I do avoid pancakes. So anyway, I didn't have pancakes when I went to Perkins. Got filled up. Read some things that they were considering talking about that day. Caught up on what it was that I wanted to really focus on when I talked to the legislators. And then I got down there, and then we sit in a big hall, all of us that are there to, lobby for public education in the school districts in the state of Iowa, as I've done many years now. Well, not many, but few years anyway. And I just happened to, notice that it's the same thing every year now. I've kind of come upon the conclusion that, so there are lobbyists that work for the Iowa School Board Association and the school administrators organization that they have, and the AEA, and everybody's got. You're not look, if you don't have a lobbyist, I mean, come on. Who are you? If you got, the lobbying is that's the $3 billion or more business a year in the United States. And so we have 3 lobbyists, and they kind of tell us what what they're watching. We bring up questions that we have about things that maybe they didn't mention, and get their opinion. And lobbyists, they'll either say they'll register for a bill, against a bill, or sometimes they'll say undecided. Sometimes they'll say undecided, even if they are decided, because maybe they need the people that are on that committee to vote a certain way on another more important bill, or they don't see this particular bill going anywhere, and being undecided is just a way of saying, we don't really believe this is going to do anything, or maybe it'll work out. We just have to see the finer details. And so I was hoping to meet with our local legislator, Henry Stone. He's been on the show a couple of times before, and I've been in communication with him. And he had a recent loss of his mom, and so he was wrapped up in the funeral and all of that. And so our prayers go out to Henry Stone and his family. And he told me, he's the last one. He lost his sister, his mom and dad. Now he's the last. He's the last Stone around in that immediate family. And so prayers for him. And he's also not the chair of the Education Committee this year. He's still the majority whip in the state of Iowa, but he was not there. So I didn't get a chance to talk to him. And so visited with some others from just around the region that I had a chance to talk to about, specific things. The primary one that I was interested in was PEPL, and with PEPL specifically, SAVE, which is the penny tax. So the penny sales tax in Iowa known as SAVE. And the SAVE tax was approved by the voters, and then it was consolidated by the legislators back in 2008 or 9, because different counties were doing different things and districts were doing their own thing, and it was a mess. So they just consolidated under one thing, and then some districts have quite a bit of sales tax that they can collect because they're shopping centers, and then other places just don't have that. So some districts were losing out. So the penny sales tax in the state of Iowa for the last 15, 16 years or so has allowed school districts across the state, based on their pupil count, the number of students, to receive the same amount of money, which has been very beneficial. And so that's worked out pretty well. And what that does is it allows school districts to be able to take care of their infrastructure. It's quite expensive to, say, replace a roof or HVAC systems, or to make sure that you have air conditioning, in our schools. Like, we shouldn't be shutting down when it gets hot, because we want to be able to continue having school regardless. And so air conditioning helps. But just all of the things, it's quite expensive to take care of the infrastructure of these large square footage public buildings that we maintain as public school districts. And that's been very good and helpful. It doesn't seem like it would make a big difference, but in our particular school district, and just like everywhere else, it does. And the governor of the state of Iowa, who will not be running again for re-election, has suggested that maybe they could take 30% of the state SAVE money, school money that is there for that. And so sometimes school districts actually use that money to say, if we don't have a bond issue in our district, but there are many districts that do, and so they might do a bond levy or something like that. But then they're kind of using their anticipated SAVE money as a way to pay that back, kind of like collateral. And the governor and the legislators in Iowa are trying, to their credit, to figure out a way to reduce property taxes, to come up with a property tax reduction for the state of Iowa. Now, I've shared my ideas on that in the past. I don't particularly like property taxes either, in fact. But when anybody in government, and it doesn't matter what party you're in, sees a pot o' money, the elected mafiosos want a piece of that pie. And so what is happening right now is SAVE, the penny tax, that fund in the state of Iowa, is like right square in the sights of particularly Republican legislators who have the majority and are trying to figure out how to reduce property taxes and how they're going to make up the difference in that equation. And so they're looking at the school districts, who they are not particularly huge fans of in the first place for whatever reason. And even though that's probably where most of them got their education, but whatever. So they're like myself, and that's where I got my education, public schools, like most of us here in Iowa did. And they're willing to take, the governor wants to take 30% of that and apply it towards other things. And I don't like that. Then other folks, like our local senator, is David Rowley. He's over from Milford. And I tried to get in touch with him, but we didn't cross paths when I was down there on Monday. And so I emailed him afterwards and just kind of shared a couple of my thoughts. He has his own bill that he is proposing in the Senate, where again they would use this SAVE fund. And the idea was that we would save money, like we'd be able to have that money, we would save it, and we could use it for infrastructure, for emergency needs, we wouldn't have to do a bond issue so that we would have to fix some emergency situation or whatever. And it's worked very well for the last 16 years and longer before it was consolidated in 2008, 2009. So it works pretty slick. And it's a sales tax thing. So people can choose, what you're buying, and I like, sales taxes versus income taxes or property taxes, where they just attack your unrealized asset and say, hey, your house is worth more. We're going to get a piece of that pie too. I don't like that at all. And apparently neither do the Republicans. And so it sounds like they're trying to figure out a way to do it, but they're doing it by, looking at maybe ways to rob Peter to pay Paul is my assumption. So the folks that I did talk to, the legislators that I did, they were all very kind, and they always are, and always very respectful of their time. I don't waste a lot of time with them to say very directly, if it comes across your desk, this is what you probably should vote against and be wary of, because it's going to hurt us. And in our particular case, the governor's in our particular small school district, it would cost us, in her proposal, about $3 million, which is, I don't know, maybe you got $3 million laying around and you can just, hey, here you go. Here's your, we'll cover that down the road, but $3 million is quite a bit. And that's not $3 million, for teachers and things like that. PEPL type funds, infrastructure funds are specifically for taking care of our buildings, our property, our school buses, things like that, things we have to buy, computers, basically anything that, what we consider infrastructure. And what Rowley wants to do is he wants to say, now we can include insurance in that. Insurance is part of infrastructure. The only reason he's doing that is because he's trying to avoid a budget problem out of other general fund situations, which is going down at a rapid rate. And actually, the state of Iowa is borrowing a lot of money from its rainy day fund, which is, I guess, what rainy day funds are for. And they will inevitably expend it because of how we've handled some of our vouchers and things like that we've done with our schools. And our reduction in income taxes, which I'm for. And so inevitably, when you reduce taxes, you're going to reduce incomes, and that means things have to start going away. But with sales tax, with this thing that was voter approved, it seems to be a very secure. In fact, that's the first word of the SAVE acronym for SAVE, for the penny sales tax. Secure Advanced Vision for Education is what SAVE stands for. Politicians like to make up acronyms almost as much as military guys do. And so he wants to take that SAVE money, Rowley does, and he wants to also make it so that you can pay for liability insurance, particularly for if you have armed employees in your school district. So a couple of years ago, the state of Iowa passed a law that it's okay for school districts to have armed personnel in their school districts, and they have to be trained, and there's some different caveats and that type of thing. And some school districts do that. Some school districts blatantly don't. And then there's some school district that says, maybe we do, maybe we don't. Why don't you try to find out? And so that is the position that we take as a school district. And then we don't release any of our security concerns that way. But out in western Iowa, closer to say like the Okoboji and Spirit Lake area, where Rowley is from, out in Milford, very close to there. They were some of the first school districts to say, "Yep, we're gonna arm our teachers or staff or whoever it happens to be," and that sounds fine. I'm not opposed to that. Actually, there are certain teachers that I've run across where I'd be like, "Yeah, maybe not you," but I'm not opposed to that. There is a problem with liability because the insurance company. There's only about one insurance company for school districts in the state of Iowa, so. There is that weird little monopoly. And they do not want to cover your school district. So that creates a problem, and it raises the rate significantly if you've got somebody that is armed, and they were trying to figure out how do we pay for that. Rowley's solution is take it out of SAVE money. You can use your SAVE money to do that. What that does is that just opens up SAVE money to the one insurance company that provides liability insurance to the state of Iowa. I don't know why we have why would we not have a variety of insurance companies? I guess the risk is just too darn high. And so it just provides an open checkbook to the same insurance company so they can charge whatever they want. So I don't know who's behind that, but I know that Senator Rowley, that's his solution to be able to cover the liability. And again, borrowing some from SAVE. If politicians see a pot of gold sitting over there, regardless of how you got it, whether it's yours or it's public schools or it's colleges and universities or it's businesses or whatever, believe me, they will find a way to get their greedy little paws on it and try to convince the universe that they are actually better at spending that money than the people that have it currently. It doesn't matter what party they're in; they'll do the same thing. And right now, it's a little easier for Republicans to attack public schools, and so they do. And they look at the pots of gold and they say we're gonna redistribute that wealth, which they don't like to hear. They don't like to hear that. But before I get on to my I'll share a couple other things there that I didn't necessarily talk about when I was in Des Moines. With every, some of these don't really matter, but I wanted to just share with you. I categorize my weird little hobby is I will read what those legislators are up to down in Des Moines, and you should probably do that occasionally. It wouldn't hurt if we did that more often with federal Congress as well, because who knows what they're up to, and it's hard to stay on top of it all because it seems like they're not really doing much, but they're always up to something. And so I've categorized just a few that came out just this past week since I've been back, actually, from Des Moines. Some of these came out at the end of the week. Certainly many, many more bills. This is just the House. I'm just going to cover a couple of them. And I want you to know the Senate just has just as many silly things going on, obviously, and these come out consistently. And at a certain point, they're going to stop introducing bills, and they got to get these through committee, and then they got to get into the funnel, and then it gets whittled down, and then at the end of the day, only about 8 to 10% of all of these things that are introduced every year actually make it to the governor's desk. So at least there's thank God for that, because there are some really dumb bills out there, and redundant bills, and bills that make you go, like that's an old song, bills that make you go, All right, well, I have a few I'm just going to share. I got 4 categories here, and my 5 categories. I'm sorry, I had to add one at the end because I thought it was weird. My categories are bills that make sense to me, bills that I say this is unnecessary, or there's already another governing body that can do this, bills that you go, who's behind this one? A bill that should go nowhere because it's just meant to appease one whiny constituent, and a bill that won't go anywhere because Republicans now like the things they used to hate, and that Republicans are in the super majority, so that's why I pinpointed it on them. So let's start with the bills that make sense to me, because there are a few, and these are just a couple that just in the last few days that came out. So last week, these are a few that I've decided to highlight. There are certainly many, 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 many more, and this is just from the House. So House File 2553 is a bill that for an act relating to terminology involving a pregnant female. And that's from the Health and Human Services Committee. So that makes sense to me. It's human female is the only human that can be pregnant. So, duh. And before, what it was saying was a pregnant person, which is dumb. So that has been is being considered for changing a few different parts of the code so that it reflects, actual biological possibilities. So that makes sense to me. House File 2253, good on you. House File 2248, that's a bill for an act relating to the confinement of persons found incompetent to stand trial. That's from Representative Rinker, and that also makes sense to me. If a person has committed a serious crime, a felonious crime, and is found incompetent to stand trial, let's just go ahead and put them, make sure we, take care of them, but we're not going to let them wander out in there into the streets again. Okay, so there's a bill for that, and that's called House File 2248. Seems to make sense to me. And they can only be held for, a certain amount of time. So read the bill if you're interested, but that seems to make sense. House File 2237, I know I'm just enthralling you right now with all of these things, but I will get better with my pointed commentary. House File 2237 is a bill for an act relating to the discharge of toxic pollutants associated with coal ash into water sources. And this is by Representative Wessel-Kroschel. So you can guess what side of the part, the house she's on, but she's right. It's, why would we want toxic pollutants, particularly from coal ash, in our water sources? We don't. She's from Story County, so she's looking at coal plants, and they're saying, look, it's fine that you make energy from that. It's just you can't put your coal ash, which is full of mercury and other problems, in our water. Okay, it's weird that it's already not on the books in Iowa, but it wasn't. So that one makes sense to me. Now, we're going to jump to a different category now, because those were the only 3 bills that do make sense, in my opinion, in the last week anyway. So this is the unnecessary category, or there's another governing body that can do this already. And there's just a couple here. House File 2252 is a bill for an act relating to county and city regulation of accessory dwelling units. And what this means is, so what they're saying is there ought to be a law, and that's what legislators love to hear somebody say, there ought to be a law. And so they're making one that says, yes, counties and cities, they have to let you have an accessory building, an accessory dwelling on your property, so long as it's not in a historically, like it's not on the historical registry or whatever. So you can have like a mother-in-law's house, or you can have your in-laws' house there if you want to. But by God, you better not add the other in-laws, because you're only allowed to have one. I don't know why they're restricting it to one, but they are. So it's allowable under this law to have another dwelling on your property. It will be taxed, of course, but you can't do more than one. And so I don't know why they need to get involved with that. What is it their business at the legislature to decide what you and I can do with our property? You want to move your whole family in like it's the compound, you ought to be able to do that. We kind of have that going on here at Sunnyside, so you can see why that's irritating. It's unnecessary. The county commissioners can make that decision. No need for it to come from the legislators down in Des Moines. Same thing for House File 2231. That's a bill for an act establishing a seal. This is where we're at, America. This will establish a seal of civics excellence. It's a program administered by the Department of Education, of course, which is what we do. We say, hey, I got a brilliant idea, education, you take care of it. And then what it is, it's a sticker to recognize student excellence in civics. They're very hot on civics right now. The Republicans are getting after the civics, making sure that the kids know their civics. I'm not opposed to kids knowing civics, okay? I think that's good. They're really getting in the weeds on, how you can teach and what you're going to teach. And I mean, just join a school board and that would be fine. But no, they're legislating it from the Capitol, which is a kind of unusual thing I used to think for conservatives to want to do, which would be, perform government overreach, but they're really into it right now. And so if this is the most benign of the civics and curriculum suggestions that are under consideration currently this legislative session, and it involves a sticker that goes on your permanent record because you're good at civics. You're going to show that to your employer in the future. And you might notice on that next page that there's a little sticker on there. Oh, my God, you have a civics sticker from the legislator? I'll just let you think about that. That's unnecessary. Thank you very much. All right, remember, most of these never make it to the governor's desk, so we can only hope that that one does, because it should be retroactive. I should have a sticker for my civics excellence back in the day. Now, here's another category I've created, and it's, I wonder who's behind this one. Now, this category of bills, I just have a couple here because I don't have time to do all of them, because they probably all could go into this category to some degree. But we're going to take a look at a couple I find interesting. House File 2251. Now, that's a bill for an act relating to ginseng harvesting. There should be a fee and a licensing requirement or two or several. Now, why do we need to get a license to harvest ginseng, and why do you have to pay a fee for harvesting ginseng? And the answer is you don't if you own the land and it's your ginseng. American ginseng is, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, it grows in shade. You have to plant it. It takes about 6-7 years to really get established, and it's a root. And you have to be careful how you harvest it, because you can kill the plant. You don't want to do that because you want it to continue to develop the ginseng root, which, by the way, is like thousands of dollars. If you have a few pounds of ginseng root, you're going to do okay. It's a good little business. So American ginseng can be planted on your private property, and you can harvest it and sell it. There may be some international laws about ginseng, but I could ask my communist Chinese robot, because I think they like the ginseng over there. So maybe it would know what the rules for ginseng are. But I'll tell you what, the problem here is that people, these nefarious Iowans are going out into these parks, state parks, county parks, rummaging around like little pigs and pulling out the wild American ginseng. And I tell you what, there is nothing more irritating to a park ranger, DNR, county conservationist than having these, weeble wobble regular civilian citizen types out there digging around collecting the ginseng. So they want a fee and a license for that so that you can legally go on to these public lands and collect it. So I wonder who's behind that. Hey, don't be surprised. The DNR and the conservation folks, they've got their own lobbyists. And so I'm going to guess that this is just another way to help fund some additional land purchases from the DNR. Here's another one, 2240, House File 2240. Now that's a bill for an act creating an endowment tax. This is, you want to talk about the pot of gold? When politicians see a pot of gold, and particularly now in this case, it's the supermajority from the Republicans, and they're looking at higher education, who that they don't like, and they're because college and universities for good reason in some case, right? But they're looking at these and they're saying there's a pot of gold over there, and there's a bill. This 2240 is a bill that would make it. They would create an endowment tax, a tax on the endowment of an institution, or on the endowment value of certain Iowa colleges and universities. Wink, wink. Limiting charges relating to certain endowment funds, making appropriations to workforce grant and incentive programs, and making appropriations to supplement tuition grants for high-wage and high-demand jobs. See, that's the justification, friends. They see some of these schools out there, they've just got these enormous endowments. That's big pots of gold that the state legislature currently can't touch. And they want to do stuff with it. It certainly has nothing to do with property tax relief, but we'll pretend like it has something to do with workforce grants and incentives and, other things. No, because they can cut from those programs if they think they can add to it from this current one. Well, here's how it would work, friends. It would be a 1% annual, a 1% tax on your endowment. If you're, say, a college or university that's got a big endowment, just leave that there. And the state's going to take that money. You're going to have to pay the state for having an endowment. Now, endowments are provided by private donors. People like you and me and, Bill Gates, we're all in the same room. We're given the same amount of money in a lot of cases to all of our favorite schools, universities, sometimes for research, sometimes for projects, programs, who knows? Sometimes just because we want to. And when we do that, the government sees that and they get mad because you're already getting a tax deduction, and you're giving money away to a crazy leftist school. And now, how are we going to get that money? How about we have an endowment tax? But they've made it very reasonable because in Iowa, we've got a lot of colleges and universities, a lot. I think we're fairly unique in how many private schools we have, colleges, particularly religiously affiliated schools, which is cool. Of course, we've got our junior colleges, and we've also got our, our state schools like the University of Iowa, Iowa State University, and UNI. We've got some big private schools too, like Drake and Grinnell, which is not big; it's just a college, but it seems very, very well to do. And guess what, folks? If you have under this bill, if it gets through, you have a $500 million endowment, and you're probably thinking to yourself, $500 million endowment, you should be taxed on that. But these are private donations. They were given to the school. Whether you like the school or you like the people that gave the money, it's irrelevant what you think because those are private donations to that school for whatever purposes they wanted to do that. And the government shouldn't have anything to do with going in there and taxing an endowment, in my opinion, regardless of how their faculty votes or what color their hair is. But in Iowa, if you have $500 million endowment under this bill, you would get 1%. They would get 1% of that. Now, I don't know if it's 1% over $500 million or 1% just you're 500, you've met the threshold, you're getting the tax, the 1% over everything. That's only 3 schools, by the way, in the state of Iowa. That's the University of Iowa, which has about a $3 billion endowment. Iowa State University has a $1.6 billion endowment. And you know what that is. It's all those knuckleheads driving those Hawkeye license plate cars around that didn't go to the University of Iowa. Like, they're the ones that are creating this gigantic endowment for the University of Iowa. Iowa State is smaller for their endowments and their research than the University of Iowa. What's that about? But then there's Grinnell College. That's the second largest, $2.9 billion endowment. Whoa. And the alma mater is several African dictatorships. But it's true. I don't know why. Anyway, would you would you add all that up together? And I don't, like I said, I don't know if it's, they tax the first $500 million or they don't tax the first $500 million. But when you add all that up, it's either $60 to $90 million every year for the state of Iowa. Boom! Depending on how they calculate their values. Right there! That's how we do it! You think you need $60 to $90 million? The state of Iowa was like, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and use that to supplement tuition grants for high wage and high demand jobs. No, that's not what's going to happen. It's that should not happen. I don't care how, if you don't like I don't like these big endowments. I was like, well, maybe you have a small, maybe you're not endowed as big, and that's a problem for you, not for that person or that school or institution. And so leave it alone. And the last thing conservatives say that they want to do is redistribute wealth, but that's exactly what is happening behind House File 2240. Leave that alone. Here's a category I made up called a bill that should go nowhere because it's just meant to appease one whiny constituent. And I just have one for now, but I could do this every week. House File 2241 is a bill for an act providing for partial liability of Regents institutions for defaulted educational loans. What that means is when a kid defaults on their student loan, say at Iowa State or wherever, Iowa State would have to then pay 10% of that default amount to whoever they owe it to. And for what? To reward poor choices? I'm sure that in somebody's brain, they're blaming the school for advocating for this particular student to get a loan or loans to continue their education, when clearly the education institution folks must have realized that this student was a dropout waiting to happen and that they were going to default. So they're going to tag that back to the schools. And that would be very harmful to private schools, I can tell you, in the state of Iowa or anywhere in the country, because private schools notoriously charge lots of money and lots of student loans, and there's no guarantee that they're ever going to work in those career fields or that liberal arts degree actually paid off. But fortunately for them, it's just partial liability for Regents institutions, which would be Iowa State, UNI, University of Iowa, the state community colleges, etc. All right, that's a bill that should go nowhere because it's just meant to appease one whiny. Somebody's mom was like, I mean, come on. Or maybe it was just somebody themselves who defaulted and they're like, okay, I'll do something for you, but I don't expect this to go anywhere, which I think representatives and senators do all the time. They hear you. They're like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to write a bill. And then when they know it's not going to go anywhere, they're like, oh man, I'm sorry. It did not happen this time. It was a stupid bill in the first place, but you're a stupid person. So what can I say? Here's one in my final category, and we're going to move on to some more fun stuff. A bill that won't go anywhere because Republicans now like the things that they used to hate. And this is House File 2233, which is a bill for an act relating to facial coverings worn by peace officers and providing penalties along with it. Now, House File 2233 is not a Republican bill. It is put forth by a handful of Democrats, Cralkin, Madison, Kurth, Amos Jr., and Ramirez. Basically what it means is law enforcement folks in the state of Iowa can't wear a mask that hides their identity, and if they do so, they can be charged with a serious misdemeanor and a fine, which could be up not less than $10,000. And in certain cases, they can lose their immunity for civil lawsuits against them based on, if they're in a situation where maybe they're being unnecessarily aggressive or it's a false, arrest or something like that, and they're wearing a mask. This does not bother me, actually, because I'm like, look, I know you back the blue, and I do, and we enforce our laws, but we don't need masks. We don't need masks. I feel like if you work for the government, whether you're the garbage man or you're the chief of staff of the joint chiefs of staff, you're getting paid to occasionally face the danger, and that's coming from a former 26 years as a soldier. So I'm just saying, look, I mean, sometimes you gotta take the risk, and we don't need that. And our police officers don't need to hide behind a mask. They know what they're doing, especially our local guys, the small town guys. Everybody knows who they are just by how they're walking. So a mask wouldn't do anything anyway. And I don't know how the police officers feel about that. That's not going to go anywhere because Republicans are going to back the blue, or what they think is back in the blue. But here's the problem with it. These are the same folks that are, really doing a good job making sure that we're getting our curriculums out on Holocaust, and that's good. And they love getting to the public education curriculums. They don't really ever bother the private schools curriculums, but they like to tell the public schools what to do. And of course, one of the big lessons from the Holocaust is that you got to watch out for those, jackbooted, state police. And our police officers are not like that. Our law enforcement officers, I don't believe, are like that. But when they have the image of, anything that they do to add to that image is not beneficial, in my opinion, to public safety. And so if, and someday it will, because tables always turn, when those political tables do turn, I don't want a crazy leftist government's police officers or whomever to come in after me with a mask on either. So don't see the downside of that. Don't worry, folks. It's not going to go anywhere because Republicans now like the things that they used to hate. So that's my category of things that happened in the last week. Just a few of them down at the legislature. It gets me all fired. I'm not going to do this every week. Can you imagine how boring that would be? But can you imagine? I bet you didn't know half of that. Maybe you did. Maybe know more than that than I do. But maybe you're staying on top of it. But if you're not, this is the kind of crap that goes through Des Moines in the chambers, in the committees, every day. So I want to talk about now. After I've made fun of the Republicans for on and off, which they deserve. I've come at you from a libertarian point of view for the last 5 years, and I have to be honest. Don't call me a hypocrite, but if you recall, a couple months ago now, I had Stacey Besch from Algona on. She's going to primary a guy I was talking about earlier. That's Senator Dave Rowley from Milford. He's the guy that wants to use SAVE money to pay for liability insurance for armed officials in the school district, and basically pay one insurance company. And she's going to primary him in the Republican primary. She's running for state senate in our particular neck of the woods. And I think Stacey's a great person. She's done tremendous work against human trafficking for many years now, and she's made a difference. She's a go-getter. She's an entrepreneur, and she listens. And she admits, she's like, I'm not an expert on this, but I use common sense, and I appreciate common sense. And so I had her on the show, and I do support her in that primary race. And because she knows that, she texted me, and it was Monday night, a week ago, that so I'd gotten back from Des Moines, and I was kind of all fired up about what I'd learned that day anyway. And she texts and says, hey, would you mind introducing me and speaking for me at the county at the caucus, because you can't be in all of the counties and all of the different caucus sites as one person in a large district when it's all on the same night. Well, it's caucus night tonight, folks, in the state of Iowa, And I said, sure, Stacy, I'll be glad to speak for you. I support you and what you're going for. And there's only one problem. I'm going to have to register Republican to do that, because in Iowa, you can't just go to the caucus as a wingnut, libertarian, and go to the Republican caucus, and you can't go to the Democrat caucus if you're not a Democrat. You can probably go to libertarian. I don't even know if libertarians have a caucus, to be honest with you. That's how ineffective they are generally. So yes, I said, all right. She's like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. You should do that. So I did. On Tuesday, I went to the county courthouse, and I did it. I re-registered as a Republican in the state of Iowa. Now, after what you've heard me say in the last 20 or 30 minutes, and what I've said in many other episodes, that does not exclude the Republicans from the sharp tongue of Troy Thompson. If I think you're doing a dingbat knucklehead thing, I will let you know. But I consider myself more conservative, particularly in faith-related objects, than most of the people that are in Republican office. And with that being said, I also am libertarian and understand the Constitution, and that people have a right to be dumb. And you don't have to legislate morals to everybody, because that judgment day is coming at a different time anyway. And so I registered Republican, and I'm fine with it. I grew up Republican, and I know everybody. I know everybody in this caucus, and hopefully they won't be mad at me. I don't think they particularly care. Hopefully they see more like a prodigal son opportunity, and that they'll be like, yeah, let's listen to this guy. He was the one that introduced Donald Trump to us in 2016. And at the time, that was not who they were after. And now all of them are crazy Trump people. And who would have thought? And now I've cooled on that idea, so we'll see. I have more faith in Stacey Besch than I do in Donald Trump. Her personality is far better, and her demeanor and humility is far greater than our commander-in-chief, who spoke for him back in 2016. So hopefully they'll remember that and say, yeah, he was right about that President Trump, who we love now, and maybe he's going to be right about Stacey Besch. And I am, because we'll make that argument tonight at the caucuses, and re-registered as a Republican. All right. With a pretty strong libertarian bent. I think Ron Paul in that case. All right, so here's the couple of things I just want to do for you. First of all, I want to talk to you about the Sunnyside beef orders are now available. You can do that just by contacting the show. Give them your contact information. They're going to go to the locker. So that means that taking 2 groups of 5 of steers to the locker on the 20th of March and also on the 30th of March. It'll be, here's how it works out, folks. It's $7 a pound, all in, all set, all done. So once the cut weight is established, the steers are hanging. I know what they weigh. If you get a quarter, you get a half, you get a whole, I'll know what the amount is, and it'll be that times 7. And that is going to be about a 30% savings from the same amount at the store right now, which is great steaks, great roasts, great ground beef, all of that. Obviously, ground beef doesn't cost $7. It's like $4.36 at Costco. So if it's just high quality. I'll handle the order for you. We'll talk in person or over the phone, whatever it happens to be. It'll be one check, and you don't have to deal with the locker. You don't have to deal with a whole bunch of different things. All orders will be ready, I'd say, early to mid-April, depending on which order goes in, whether it's on the 20th of March or the 30th of March, because they do have to hang for a while and cure, and then they get all packaged up and they're ready to be enjoyed just in time for grilling season. Folks, I think you should know who your farmer is, and do you have a farmer for your beef? I'd like to be that guy. That's why we've been doing this, and I look forward to serving you. I'm proud of these steers. I'm going to be a little sad to see them go, but I'm happy for where they're going, taking care of our families and our friends around the sunny side of life land. So enjoy the savings. Maybe it's a little bit steep for you up front, but I tell you what, over the course of that year or however long this beef lasts you, it's quite a significant savings indeed. And so it all comes from the same steer, too. Can you imagine that? The hamburger you have right now from the grocery store might have 30 different steers in it. That's exciting. So know your local farmer, whoever it happens to be, and I hope to be one for you. Just contact the show. You can text the show. It's right in the show notes. Just text the show, send your contact information, your name, your phone number a way for me to get a hold of you, and we will talk about what you want, a quarter, a half, or a whole steer. And we'll talk about your probably your delivery date, and we'll just stay in contact that way. I think you're going to love it. I'm glad to have you on board. But orders are limited, so get that going now. Press that button. Text the show. All right. If you don't put by the way, if you text the show and you do not put away like your number or your email, that's a way for me to contact you. I cannot contact you. All I see is the last 4 of your phone number, and that's it. So it's great for commenting, but I have no idea who it is if you're trying to get a hold of me for the steer. So that's how we're going to handle this first group, and we'll continue to get better with communication as we go along. All right. So final thing, 2 reviews of 2 different, one is a movie, one is a TV series. My wife and I just watched them this past week. So the first thing is the Promised Land series. Now, this is a series that is put out by Angel Studios, and they've just put out a lot of very good family-oriented films, and this is a television show. I think it's in its 3rd season. Certainly it's in its 2nd season. You can watch it on the Angel app, which is available on most of your smart TVs now, Samsung, Sony, whatever. You got the little drop-down bar there, and you just have to subscribe to it like everything else is a subscription. Or you can watch the first season for free on YouTube with ads, of course, and that's what we did. We watched the first season of The Promised Land, which came out a year or 2 ago. What is the Promised Land series? Well, so we've been doing the Bible. We did Sunnyside Farm Studios. We produced the Sunnyside of Life Bible in a Year experience. It's running right now every day. There's a new reading from the Bible in order. You can, in 1 year, you'll be able to, you listen to it. You'll have read essentially the entire, I will have read the entire Bible to you. 66 book version. And so, when I was doing that, when I was recording that a couple of years ago, I mean, I don't know if it's right. I think it is right enough that there are, for me, humorous times throughout the Bible. And maybe I have a wicked sense of humor. Maybe that's inappropriate. Growing up in church and just envisioning the stories that were being told, or I was reading from the Bible, or learning about in Sunday school class, and then thinking in skits like I've done my entire life, just imagining it. There have been, myriad times that I've just kind of giggled to myself as I imagined a funny scenario that happened either right there in black and white in the Bible, or what potentially could surround that. The egos of some of the characters have always made me kind of giggle, and some of the funny things that could have happened with some of the characters, that maybe with their family, or the way that they interacted with each other, or, the nefarious things they did and they got away with. And I thought all of these things were, and what were the reactions of the other people around them? I've always thought that lent itself, particularly in the Old Testament, to some pretty funny stories. And apparently the folks at Angel, which I think they might be Mormon, so who knows, but they are right. They think the same way. So the Promised Land is actually about the Exodus, and it takes place shortly after having crossed the Red Sea, which probably saved them tremendous production value, having to not recreate the Charlton Heston scene of dividing the sea. So it's after that. They're now just wander around in the desert, and you've got all of these tribes living together, not particularly happy, and Moses is trying to, really figure this out.
It's not my job to question God's commands. It's my job to listen and obey. And today's command is pretty simple. As long as I hold up the staff of God during the battle, Israel will prevail. If I lower the staff, Amalek will prevail. And you look at this staff and you think, yeah, simple enough.
And he's got his brother Aaron, who is helping him kind of, with the communication thing.
Public speaking has always been my strong suit.
When I say promised, you say land. Promised.
When I spoke to Pharaoh on Moses' behalf, it went pretty well. Besides the plagues.
His sister Miriam is with him, and then eventually, his wife joins him, and then there's just the characters that are all there that are they're there in the Bible. Joshua, his role with Moses as an assistant, and Korah.
I mean, he grew up in the Egyptian palace, left home for decades, then came back, saying God chose him to be in charge? But there is no one who loves the 12 tribes more than I do. I consider every person here to be a part of my family. Everyone. Except that one guy whose face I don't recognize. But there's just something about him. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Turns out to be an interesting character. And all of these, if you read the Exodus, you're going to find these people in there, and you're going to find these stories. And I will say, they're very respectful of the stories themselves. They're not denying the sincerity and, in my opinion, the reality of these stories.
A word from the Lord. You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself.
I don't remember any eagles.
My feet are bleeding. Just know.
When God called me from the burning bush, I said yes right away. Okay, maybe not right away, but eventually I did say yes.
Let me get this straight. All of these people, they all look to you for leadership?
That's right.
But they're doing it in like an office, like the office setting. So there's side interviews, there's side looks to the camera, like it's shot in a documentary style, like it's constantly happening. And it is hilarious, in my opinion. I love it. It's clean, and it is beautiful and sincere when it should be. They're not trying to mock the stories. They're definitely not trying to mock the faith of the people, and particularly Moses.
I have the renewed covenant and the new laws for us to follow.
Why did God choose me?
It is easy to be popular. It is harder to lead.
I have sinned, but God chose me anyway. It's not about being worthy. It's about being faithful to Him.
But they're also hitting on things that, could be, they're obviously making some things up, like we don't know what the day-to-day conversations were between the people of Israel as they wandered through the desert in their 12 tribes. And so the first season gets you from just having crossed the Red Sea until they build the tabernacle. Thank you. They build the tabernacle, and God presents himself in the form of a smoke, a cloud during the day and fire, pillar of fire at night, which is amazing. And that's the final episode of the first season. That's all I've seen. And Miriam does her dance, and that is just like, it made me cry because it's so beautiful. Was that what it sounded like? I don't know. Obviously, we weren't there. Neither were you. So there's probably some stodgy, Baptist theologian somewhere that is like, but or whomever theologian, whatever. I didn't mean to pick on the Baptist. Sorry, guys. But you know who I'm talking about. Wretched. And so they probably don't like any of that stuff, and that's fine. But I do. I like it because I see humor in it, and I don't think that they're disrespectful at all to the faith story of the Exodus. And it is very, very funny. And there are moments with Korah, who is thinks he's a great leader, and Moses makes him a leader of 10. So there's some friction there. There is a guy that they clearly invented, but it could have happened, and it's an Egyptian. who just happened to wash up on the shore after the sea swallowed all of his fellow soldiers up. And so he just drops his stuff, and he's been pretending to be a Hebrew the whole time. And that is quite funny. As the series, he kind of plays a Jim type character, if you recall, having seen The Office, what he does there.
I am actually not a Hebrew. I am an Egyptian. My name is Chisisi, and I was actually chasing the Hebrews through the parted waters when all of a sudden my friends disappeared, and I ended up on the wrong side of the sea.
And Miriam is very funny. There is a little bit of, I have opinions too, and none of the men want to listen to her.
I need some advice.
From me?
No, Miriam, from the Lord.
The baby my mother pushed down a river became a political revolutionary.
I have spoken.
So now I get to take notes while the men are talking.
You are an inspiration for women everywhere. Don't touch me, please.
And it's just very, very good and funny. And I hope that you check it out. You can see it for free on YouTube. It's called The Promised Land, and it's a series, and it's produced by Angel Studios. And I hope you enjoy it, because we did, and we intend to see the rest of the story as it continues on. And the acting is all good, and the storylines are very funny, and they're all very biblical. So I enjoyed it.
Something feels different. In a good way.
Now, the movie that we saw is a thing called Song Sung Blue.
I'm not a songwriter. I'm not a sex symbol. I just want to entertain people.
I don't want to be a hairdresser. I want to sing. I want to dance. I want to garden. I want a cat.
I need something big. I need something new.
What do you think?
You don't want to be a Neil Diamond impersonator. You want to be a Neil Diamond interpreter.
Which came out around Christmas, this past Christmas. Hugh Jackman, and he plays a character who is a Vietnam veteran.
My dad in Vietnam, sometimes he'd have to crawl over dead bodies. So yeah, he used to drink.
I could really use for you to tell me I'm doing the right thing.
I think you are.
Oh, I was scared you were going to hit you.
Who is a recovering alcoholic. He's been sober for 20 years, and he's a musician. And kind of down on his luck. He's a mechanic, and they don't have a lot of money. And this all takes place around Milwaukee in Wisconsin. And he finds love and a partner in music with a woman who is played by Kate Hudson, and she is phenomenal in this role. Hugh Jackman's always good, but Kate Hudson, I turned to Heidi, like 3/4 of the way through the movie, and I'm like, whoa, Kate Hudson's way better actor than her mom. And her mom's Goldie Hawn. So she's phenomenal. She's not putting on any airs. She can look glamorous. She looks like a normal and person from the Midwest, a woman, and she's funny. She's got the Wisconsin sound down perfectly. I know this because we have a Wisconsinite in our family, and she sounds like that. So
I wouldn't go any shorter than this. I wanted to ripple and wave when the wind blows my shirt.
Wind in a bar. How?
Like a leaf blower. Do you have one? Sure.
So they just tell this amazing story of this duo who form a tribute sort of band surrounding the songs of Neil Diamond. And I love Neil Diamond. I love Neil Diamond songs. I remember specifically having a very strong pointed conversation on Noble Eagle 2 with a soldier. And it was like, there's two kinds of people in the world, those who like Neil Diamond and those who don't. And that's it. And so I'm on the Neil Diamond side. And I've shared the story before that when, there was a time I still will sing it in karaoke, but there was a time where I sang in karaoke at a bar that was a couple of wedding parties, and it was on a resort. And the next day we were walking around that resort, and people were like, "Hey, it's the Neil Diamond guy," because I was that good. Now, was I as good as Hugh Jackman? Of course, maybe better. But the problem here is that I'm not Hugh Jackman. He's got way better hair, much better jawline than I do. And so I wasn't in the movie. I just enjoyed watching him in it. His singing is very good. Her singing, Kate Hudson, was like, that's legit. She's amazing and such a good actress. And the story is phenomenal. And it's true. It's a true story. It's a little sad. At the end, I'm not going to spoil it for you. There are some things that come up that you're just not expecting to happen. Tragedy, just real life stuff. But this dynamic duo that is known as Lightning and Thunder.
We should call ourselves Lightning and Thunder.
We got things we gotta catch up on.
So you be lightning and I be thunder.
Yeah. Yep.
That is not very professional of me, but I've been wanting to do it.
They find happiness and hope in a message that has clearly lasted for many, many, many years in the story and the songs provided by Neil Diamond. And so it's called Song Sung Blue.
I just disappear in the music. You two always know what to do.
I can't thank Neil, because every thank you I got belongs to you, doll. You're my August night, my September morn, you're my crackling Rosie.
Lightning and thunder!
And it is available on streaming services. You can figure out where to find it. I hope you do. That's a good one. I can't remember what it's rated. I don't think it would be rated R. I can't think of anything that would be in it that would be inappropriate. Maybe language, but I don't even recall that to be an issue too. So check it out. Song Sung Blue with Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson came out just this past December. Very, very good. And that is it, folks. That is long enough. I've yapped long enough. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you see those movies. I hope you pay attention to some of the things going on in the legislature. And most importantly, I hope you truly are the sunny side of someone else's life.
When the shadows fall and doubts begin to creep, remember together we're strong, never weak. Lift your neighbor up with kindness every day. Let your actions speak the words you want to say.
The Sunny Side of Life is a weekly production about our life on the family farmstead here in Iowa, the liberties we prize, and the pursuits which make us happy. None of this is possible, of course, without Christ in our lives. For the Lord God is our sun and our shield. He gives us grace and glory.
Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life. Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life.
May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may the sunny side of your life in Christ be made evident unto you each and every day, and give you peace.